All right, what's up, code hungry, money hungry, ambitious sons of bitches? We're going to talk about the full stack dream, the good shit. So, why not start with the good shit? There's definitely some upside to all of this, despite all of the talk about web development being dead and it not being worth your time. So, let's just go ahead and debunk, unbunk, whatever you want to call it, some of this stuff because I got to tell you guys, I've been doing this for a while. And I watch some of this content from time to time about whatever, web development is dead due to the layoffs, due to the market saturation. Uh, you know, it's just a total shit show according to all of these guys, Fireship and all of these super popular YouTube channels that everybody watches. Not hating on them, cool channel, good content, well put together. But let's just keep it real here. So, you've been thinking about diving into full stack development. You're unsure because all the negativity. I get it. I dealt with it, especially with the AI revolution. Luckily, I already had my foot in the game. I kind of understood what was going on. So, you get all of these college kids asking questions. What am I going to do? Should I even bother with this computer science degree? Should I even bother learning all these different coding languages and whatnot? And first, I'm just going to start with just such a simple argument. If you think the AI is going to take your coding job, what makes you think it's not going to take any other job? I don't care if it's construction. I don't care if it's being a doctor, a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon, a neurosurgeon, physical therapy. Sure, in the future, robots, AI can probably replace us all. Okay, so getting that out of the way, what do we want to do with ourselves now? We can't sit here and doom and gloom the whole time, so let's just take a realistic look at the current market outlook. And I gotta tell you, my experience has been nothing but positive in the web development space. Of course, I've been a web developer for about 15 years. I've done everything from freelance work, contract work, all the way up to working for companies full time under salary. So, front end, back end, you name it. I've even been the marketing manager, which I absolutely fucking hated. So, let's just talk about the outlook here and what it does take to succeed. Because you can still succeed doing this. You can still make a great living doing this. It's still very rewarding. It still has the potential to leave you with a remote position where you can have your lovely life out on the island somewhere in Hawaii and sitting on your laptop out on the beach if that's how you want to play it. So, what does it take? And I'm just going to tell you from my experience, it takes number one, step one, specialization. Once you've achieved specialization on a certain stack, on a certain platform, even just a certain language, whether it's JavaScript, preferably a C style language because that kind of allows you to transition to anything else. I mean, if you just learn Python really good, that's great. My opinion, it's not quite as flexible. Python, ubiquitous, it's everywhere. However, doesn't quite transition as much as if you learn a C style language. And when I say learn a language, I don't mean understanding an if statement and a while loop and the basic syntax. I mean really understanding that language, understanding inheritance, polymorphism, all of these different things if they apply to that language, if they're object oriented or if they're not, if they're functional, then whatever. Understand it so that you can genuinely say you are a master. You're an expert, because that term is thrown around all over. Are you an expert? Yeah, I'm an expert. I don't know if some of you guys have worked next to an expert, but it's a humbling experience. My first time working at a company, I had a lead developer over me, and all of these guys in the early days of Stack Overflow, when Stack Overflow actually mattered, that had all of those freaking reputation points, that knew their shit. Those guys were experts. They really know their stuff. Working with them is humbling. It makes you realize how much you can grow. Whenever you think you know a language, sit back and just kind of put that child hat on, that child curiosity hat, and just make yourself kind of realize, maybe I don't know this like I think I do. Maybe there's still a lot more to learn. You may have taken a boot camp and know some HTML, and could you sit down and genuinely plan out the architecture for a complex program in a specific platform, whether that's a social media platform or some type of content management system. And I don't mean using the content management system, I mean building one. If you can sit down, plan something out like that, determine what it's going to take to execute that, then you're on your way to success. That's the type of understanding that people mean when they say expert. You can come in, you can quickly diagnose problems, you can quickly come up with solutions, and from a project perspective, you can quickly come up with a path forward. So this is what they're looking for. Now, that may sound daunting, like, oh, well, how do I get expert experience without being able to get my first job? Believe it or not, you actually can. What you want to do is, like I said, start specializing. If it's JavaScript, go ahead and pull up your Node instance, look up and get some ideas for some advanced projects and build them from scratch. That means not using ChatGPT, not using all of these even Stack Overflow repositories of answers, and figuring it out. Open a book. I learned a lot of my stuff in the early days out of books. Whenever you learn out of books, there's a certain tangible experience that comes along with it. It just sticks. Don't ask me why. I don't understand the psychology behind it. Maybe Freud would have got it. I don't get it, but it works. It's kind of like writing something down as opposed to typing it. There is a difference. I think it engages a different part of the brain, maybe. Definitely try it out. So, what do you specialize in? Well, there's a high demand in a lot of these fields for experts, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of demand in places where people don't really expect. In my career, I ended up landing somewhat surreptitiously because I didn't really have the expertise that I said that I had, but I had enough background and everything to pick up this platform quickly. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So what I'm getting at is I came across a few jobs related to e-commerce. I applied, sold myself, even though I didn't know jack shit about it. I did have a foundation in everything that had to do with web development, just hadn't been in the e-commerce space, so I picked up the platform really quickly. That being said, what I ended up finding was that there's a high demand in this e-commerce space because a lot of guys don't want to learn WooCommerce that are web developers. A lot of guys don't want to learn WordPress or Shopify or BigCommerce. Nobody wants to learn these things. They're kind of boring platforms with clunky development processes, and they're kind of a pain in the ass to use. Whenever you're used to doing your thing on Node and whipping up projects and being able to just create these great modular designs, and then you're stuck going in this rigid platform abiding by the rules of some stupid stencil framework or whatever the hell they use it, BigCommerce and WooCommerce and all these places, it's kind of annoying, but you can learn it really quickly if you have a good foundation, and then you have a high demand position where there's a lot of people who need help. So that's one way to go about it. You just play around, you find these areas of demand and focus on that. That's after you've specialized. Don't try to get into anything until you've specialized. And whatever that is, if you have specialized, you will be able to transition into pretty much whatever. That's been my experience. That's how I've seen things play out for a lot of guys. You really have to put the hours in on that one platform, language, framework, whatever it is. Be an expert at it. Don't half-ass it. Don't think that you've got it down pat because you built some cool little program or some cool little app and now you think you're a programmer. And I don't mean to say that as an asshole. I'm just keeping it real. That's how it is. I've had friends who, hey, Jeff, teach me coding, man. Teach me how to, what to learn next and what I have to do. And I always tell them, choose an advanced project that you have to finish from beginning to end and see it through. Don't cut any corners when you can't figure something out. Don't give up. Don't work your way around it. Dive in, stare at it. I always tell people, I'm not smarter than anybody. I'm just stubborn enough to stare at something for way longer than most people until I understand it. So essentially, that's the surface level version of my advice for getting into the web development space today. I'm going to carry on with some specific videos about what you can do to optimize your learning process. I'm a self-taught developer, so I know a thing or two about what it takes to learn on your own without the guidance of a professional. I have a very informal background. I've never had formal training until I started working with some companies and met some people who were willing to take me under their wing and really kind of show me the intricacies of some of this stuff. That being said, I was able to hold my own even before this, just based off of everything that I taught myself. So it can be done, and never lose motivation, never lose ambition, never lose hope, because you can definitely make a living doing this. You can be happy doing this. There's still a lot of work out there, and there's going to be for the foreseeable future. Once you actually do this for a living, you start to realize AI at this point is not really close to replacing a developer. Is it replacing a lot of the junior level positions where guys just need to write up some of the mundane cookie cutter stuff? Yes. But as far as expert developers, experts who understand these frameworks and platforms and integrations, how everything ties together, how to create endpoints, how to talk to endpoints, how to just really create systems, AI is just not there. And I don't see it being there anytime soon. There's too many moving parts. Luckily, us programmers, for whatever reason, decided to make 1,000,001 different frameworks with 1,000,001 different versions, and that all have compatibility issues, which makes it very hard for AI to learn what works and what doesn't. And it makes AI very error prone when you combine that with AI's hallucinations and the fact that it's not genuinely sentient. Makes it very difficult for it to be right most of the time, and it ends up being wrong a lot of the time. Just try to make a complex app with ChatGPT, copy and paste the code into your Android Studio. Try to make a complex app with Node.js, copy the code right into your VS Code, and just do that as a project. And you'll see tons of errors coming up. If you're not familiar with the underlying structure of how all this works, you're going to have trouble troubleshooting. It's going to be a lot harder using ChatGPT because you're just creating a mess. Now, for somebody like me and developers out there, ChatGPT is a great tool. I mean, I can use it to whip stuff up. I use it all the time. I'm not going to lie to you. But I know how to code. I understand these things from an in-depth perspective. So whenever ChatGPT gives me some bullshit or trash, I can quickly identify the problem, and it still saved me time. So right now, just a tool. Don't freak out about it. That's my advice for this video. Like I said, coming up, I'm going to have some specific videos to optimize your learning process. I'm going to give you my advice for 2025 going forward, where I think you should focus your efforts. If you guys have any specific things that you would like to see, feel free to ask. I'm willing to put together whatever. My background is mainly in React.js, React meta frameworks such as Next.js. However, I go back to the early days of classic ASP, database development, SQL Server. I've transitioned over into NoSQL, MongoDB, you name it. I've probably touched it. So if there's some things you'd like me to go over, that's cool. The only thing I haven't really touched on, software on a chip, embedded systems. I've tinkered. I might get into that in the future, but right now I'm not even going to pretend to be able to teach you anything about that. So that's where we're at in this series, and I look forward to giving you guys some good stuff going forward. Any questions, concerns, requests, leave it in the comments. Out.